Hi, Chef Kev D here. We are going live here in a couple minutes. We're going to make a couple recipes. Hopefully you guys are having a little wine or your cocktail of your choice at home. And as you guys log in, we'll kind of get started on our first recipe. A little bit about me. I've been a chef for 25 years in restaurants all over New England. Private chef now. I get to work with fun people like John Legend and Jay Leno, Little Big Town, and Red Sox and Patriots. And I'm coming to you live from VINOvations studios here in Sharon, Mass. Anybody wants any wine shipped to their house, this is the place. Go to VINOvations.us. Pick some wines out. Jason Lee will ship them right to your house. And we can also do some fun pairings and recipes and things like that moving forward. But we're going to do a couple dishes. We're going to do a cold salmon dish, which is a Salmon Poké, which is a fun kind of Hawaiian play on a raw salmon. And then we're going to do a pan-seared pork with a blackberry jam. And we're going to get that going in a couple minutes as soon as people start to log on. How are we looking there?
Looks good. We got a good group of people, Chef. We want to just let them know that they can ask questions through the chat on Facebook, and I'll direct them to you, and we'll have a good time tonight.
Yes, any questions that you guys have about food, about culinary TV, about wine, anything like that, feel free to chat, right in the chat box, and our director Craig will get them to me, and I'll answer directly to you, and we can kind of go from there. I'll rehash a couple times because I know some of you guys are cooking along. Others are just drinking along and maybe want to finish the dish later. There's no pressure here. Whatever you guys want to do, the flow of the night, you want to have some fun. We get you the link right away so you can go back and watch again anything that you missed, or if you just want to go to the middle and see one ingredient or something like that, you can definitely do that. Also, feel free to ask anything that you have. So again, Chef Kev D, some of my TV stuff. You guys heard it last week, some of you. Great food truck race on Food Network with my truck American Grill, New England Grill. We did lobster fritters and all kinds of fun stuff. 3,000 miles on the West Coast, in Vegas and LA, and Coachella, serving food all over the West Coast. Beat Bobby Flay, had a great time on that. Chef Wine with Dan Burrell. And also the Today Show with Kathy Lee and Hoda. And then we're going to go right into our first recipe. And if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask. So our first recipe is going to be a Salmon Poké, which again is kind of a Hawaiian play on a cold salmon dish. And I have about an 8-ounce piece of salmon here. I've taken the skin off myself with a super sharp knife. You can have your fishmonger or the seafood department will just take the skin off for you if you ask. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this salmon, which has been cold this whole time. It's a cold dish, so you want it to be nice and cold and fresh. You can use Wild King salmon. This is farm raised, but it's super fresh. I got a great seafood market in Newport, where I'm based out of, where I get all my seafood from. So this is a nice fresh piece of salmon here. And we're just going to cube it up. Doesn't have to be perfect, just nice cubes into a bowl.
Chef, that's just a regular fillet of fresh salmon. So if I went to a Whole Foods or a nicer grocery store, I could find a fresh, nice fillet and get that and get the same effect.
Yes, so you go to the fish department in your Whole Foods or wherever, you'll see a big pile of salmon. Ask for, this will serve 2 people. An 8-ounce piece from the center of the fish will be your thickest. And your most meaty, that's what you want to use. So this is an 8-ounce portion from the center of the fish. We go right into our bowl.
So we're cooking in a time of COVID, and somebody's asking about concerns about COVID during, in cooking and eating raw fish. Is there anything that's different than other times?
Not as far as raw fish concerned, because especially places like Whole Foods, they're following CDC guidelines, all that stuff, extra sanitation. This, though technically a raw dish, will have some lime juice in it, so it will start to cook a little bit. Has some soy sauce in it, so it's not going to be like a sashimi, which is just basically a sliced piece of raw fish that you're eating. So we'll have some things in there that will actually start the cooking process. If you were to throw this dish in the refrigerator for 45 minutes, it will become a ceviche. And that citrus will cook your salmon. So we're going to take a little bit of soy sauce right on top of our salmon. A little bit of sweet chili sauce. This is Thai sweet chili sauce. Find this in the international aisle. A little bit of that. About 25% soy to about 75% sweet chili. We're going to take a few sesame seeds. And then a little lemon or lime juice, whatever you like better. I think you guys have lime on your ingredient list, but lemon works equally as well. And this will actually start to cook the process of ceviche. So if you serve it right away, it'll still be fairly raw, but if you let it sit in your fridge for about a half hour, 45 minutes, it'll actually start to cook. So we're going to give a nice mix because we want all those flavors to get into that salmon. And as I'm stirring, this cooking class is brought to you guys by Opus Advice First, which is an Ameriprise financial practice. Bi-coastal company. They have offices in Oxford, Westchester, Palo Alto. Great company. Had the chance to do some fun events with them. We did a cooking class last week that was amazing. Great feedback. I urge you guys to send pictures in to the crew at Opus, and we want to see your finished product and how everything came out. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go. So we have soy chili and sesame seeds, and we're just going to make sure that gets mixed in nicely, and a little bit of lemon juice.
So Chef, another question again. I started to redo the question.
Please.
People are always curious about like what type of salmon. Does it need to be sushi grade? Can it be regular grade? But it doesn't seem like you need to go to the sushi bar and buy $40 a pound sushi.
If you want to break the bank, feel free. You can get some wild salmon, sushi grade. That's great for this. And as long as it's super fresh, then you can eat it in this preparation. Doesn't have to be anything crazy or too special to eat it like this because, like I said, that acid from the citrus is going to start to cook. And if you notice, I kind of have all my ingredients set up. I've been prepping for this meal for a little while to bring it to you guys, and it's going to look really easy on screen, kind of like your financial planning, right? Whether it's retirement or a wedding or something like that, you want to prepare for your future much like you prepare for a meal. So maybe a recipe for success, right? That's kind of ties everything in together. So we're going to take this mixture, we're going to nice on a little plate here. If you want to make this ahead of time, you throw it in the fridge for about 15 minutes or so, not too long because you don't want it to start to cook from that citrus. You want it to be nice and fresh. And we're going to take some avocado here, which I'll give you guys some time to dice up, but I just have diced some already with some fresh microgreens. We're going to finish with a little bit of sesame seeds. And then this isn't on your ingredient list. If you guys have a Cape Cod style chip or a tortilla chip or anything at home that you want to incorporate with this recipe, I have some blue corn chips here, but just for a little crunch. You could also, if you wanted to serve it on a chip, you can certainly do that as an hors d'oeuvre or past hors d'oeuvre if you're going to have an event when things open up and go back to normal. You could serve it kind of just like this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and you have a nice little amuse-bouche that you could serve on a platter as an appetizer or a first course. I'm going to try it here. So you know that's super fresh. You get the crunch from the chip, the fat from the avocado, the sesame seeds, the sweetness, a little salty from the soy sauce, and you have a nice salmon poke there. You guys good? Any questions?
Yeah, there's a question, Chef. So, you know, the ultimate question about avocados. How to get them right without getting brown spots?
Well, if you're going to make guacamole, use the pit, throw the pit right in the bowl with the guacamole, it will stay fresh longer. but the key is keep it fresh. So cut it right before you want to serve it, which I've done here. Super green, super fresh, no brown. The longer it sits around, it will oxidize from that oxygen and start to turn brown. And that's not what you want, because although it still tastes good, it doesn't look great.
All right, my bad. Maybe it's like, you know, maybe we want to talk about how you get them right. Do you put them in the old paper bag? Do you put them in the refrigerator? Do you put them in the basement? Where do you put them?
So if you have them, they're super hard and you want them to kind of come along faster, you definitely keep them out of the fridge. The longer you keep them in the fridge, the more ripe and not as ripe and hard they will stay, because it will extend their life even more. You want to leave them out until like room temperature, and they will start to soften up a little bit. If they're super hard, throw them in a paper bag for a couple of days. 3 days later, they'll be good to go. So super easy tips about avocados there. So salmon poke, everybody's good? No questions? Super easy, raw dish. We're going to go into our pork, and we're going to make some pan-seared pork with a blackberry jam. The key to most sauteing and cooking, start with a warm pan. So we have a small saucepan on about a 6 and a medium saute pan on about a 6 as well. We're going to sear our pork in here, and we're going to start our blackberry jam in here. So for our blackberry jam, just a few ingredients. My principles on cooking are super fresh, super simple. Let the flavors and ingredients speak for themselves. So get rid of my salmon knife. We have a nice Granny Smith apple here, which we are going to just dice up. It doesn't have to be super fancy because we're going to cook it down like a medium dice. And then we're going to start that in our saucepan. This is the most dense part of our jam, so we want to get it going first. And get it kind of caramelized and softened up.
Chef, while you're chopping up those Granny Smith apples, people are kind of questioning about what wine would be nice with salmon poké. Is it something fruity, something white, something rosé? What do you recommend?
Rosé would be great. Also something fruity like a Sauv Blanc that has those citrus notes. That'll go great with the citrus and the sweet chili and the soy sauce. Those two would be great with that dish. So we're going to start blackberry jam. Just a dollop of oil. And if you have an aversion to blackberries, you could do this with raspberries. You could do it with strawberries. I'd serve it with a different protein than pork, but raspberries or blackberries are perfect for this because it's going to get some red wine, a little balsamic vinegar, and some sugar, and just a few really good ingredients that are going to set off those bright flavors of the raspberries and blackberries. So while our apples are caramelizing, we're going to take a medium pan here, a little more oil. I'm using canola. Fun fact about canola, that it has a higher smoking point than olive oil. So if you're sauteing at home, you don't want to smoke out your kitchen with olive oil, so use canola, even avocado oil or vegetable oil before you would use olive oil for sauteing. Okay, so we're getting that nice and warm. And we have, these are about 6 to 8 ounce pork loins here. If you want to roast a whole one, you could, same preparation, but for tonight, we're going to do just a pork loin. We're going to season with salt and pepper, both sides.
Chef, how much do you know how to season?
So you want to aggressively season because 2 reasons. You see a lot of salt and pepper on my plate. You lose a lot of salt and pepper just by using a plate. You're also going to lose some when I hit the pan, whether you're grilling or sauteing. You're going to lose some of those flavors in the pan. So you want to just aggressively season and nice and even. I use kosher salt because I can feel it in my fingers, and a little black pepper, and then we're good to go. We're just going to throw that in a hot pan.
So while you're doing the pork, there's also a question about somebody, they love the idea of the alternatives to the blackberry. The apples, maybe somebody can't eat the Granny Smith apples or apples in general. Is there a reason for the tartness of a Granny Smith?
Yeah, the Granny Smith one is very tart, so you're going to get a play on flavors there, but also it's a very dense apple, where your McIntosh, your Cortlands, your Fujis, your Galas will get very mushy in this application. These stand up to a saute, and they stay nice and firm, so that's what you want. And also the sweetness of the apple and the tartness of apple. We'll play on the blackberries, we'll play on the wine, we'll play on the vinegar, and we want to get all kinds of flavors going on in your palate. So we're searing our pork on a 7, which is a medium high. If you have a flame at home, if you're using gas, you want it to be about medium. You want a nice sear on both sides, nice caramelization. If you like your pork well done, put your oven on 350. You can pop it in there and finish it off if you want to be safe. But when they're cut, these are about 2.5-inch loins. When they're cut like this, we can finish them in the pan.
So lots of questions about different proteins here. So we did a dish earlier tonight that you used chicken breast. What about, and again, we don't know the whole dish, but what about an alternative protein here?
You can use chicken. This jam goes excellent with duck. Pork, duck, chicken, lamb and wild boar, which is a little bit gamey. The fruitiness from the raspberries and the apples really cuts through like the gaminess of lamb and pork. So those are a couple good ones that have gone really nicely. So you see our pork here. Nice caramelization. You see that salt and pepper crust that we're starting to build. You can absolutely do this on the grill as well. If you have a grill pan or a grill out back that you want to use, you feel a little better doing that. Feel free, medium high, same situation, about the same time. Don't cook it on high. A lot of home cooks and rookie cooks will often cook everything on high. You'll burn the outside, the inside will stay raw, not what you want. So our apples are getting nice and soft. You can see they're starting to get brown and caramelized there. Some caramelization on there. At this point, we're going to add in our pint of blackberries. And we're going to continue to saute that down, turn it up to about a 7. And we're going to want all those flavors to cook down, and then we're going to add our liquid in. How you guys doing? Everybody's perfect? How's the poke? You having a glass of wine with that poke? All right. So we want to cook our pork to about medium. There's going to be a carryover effect. When we pull it out the heat, it still continues to cook. Something that in the restaurant business people know a lot about. You pull it off just before you want the temperature that you want, because it will continue to cook. We're also going to hit it with some hot jam, and it's going to continue to cook. And then it'll be at the temperature that you want it to be at. So, as our jam's starting to cook down, you can see our berries are starting to get a little bit soft. See our blackberries are getting a little soft there, huh? See that? As that happens, we are going to add a little bit of red wine. And that's going to deglaze the pan. That's going to finish steaming the berries. We're going to let that reduce a little bit. We're going to check our pork. We're getting very close. Now, a lot of people with meat, whether it's grilling a burger, cooking a steak, searing pork, they tend to fuss with it too much. We don't want to do that. We just want to let it cook. Hard sear, continue to cook. We're at about a medium rare right now. 2 more minutes, that pork will be done. As our wine starts to simmer, we're going to take just a little bit of balsamic vinaigrette. And you're going to get some nice tartness from that. And then also your sugar. Add in your sugar. Now, I gave you guys the measurements at home. That's for about a medium sweetness. Totally up to you. If you want it more savory, add a little less sugar. If you want a sweeter jam, you can add more sugar. The more sugar you add, the thicker that jam will get as well. So when we're cooking this down, we want it to be a nice kind of thick, jammy chutney at the end.
Chef, would you ever brine the pork chops maybe the night before for this dish, or?
You totally could brine in buttermilk. Oftentimes when I do fried chicken, I'll brine it in buttermilk overnight, and that helps to break down the connective tissue. This pork is very lean, so if it's when cooked correctly, it's very moist and soft. I don't generally need to brine it, but you could totally do that. So, we have a little bit of arugula here, which we are just going to add a little bit of olive oil. and a little bit of salt and pepper too. And we're just going to mix that up a little bit. And this is going to go underneath our pork. Now if you wanted to do a starch, roasted red potatoes, risotto, rice, any kind of starch with this dish, you certainly can. I wanted to make it super easy on you guys tonight. So we're just going to do a simple arugula with olive oil, salt, and pepper. If you want to add a little lemon juice, that's fine too. But olive oil, salt, and pepper, and just go kind of in the middle of your plate there. We're getting a nice simmer. Can you see that? We're getting a nice simmer on our jam. And it's starting to thicken up. I am going to add a little bit more sugar because we want it to thicken up a little bit. And we want to get a nice mix. We got all those flavors to come together. All right, so this is a little thinner piece right here. I'm going to pull this piece off, set it on my cutting board, and let it sit there for about 2 minutes.
So Chef, while you're letting those set, let's talk really quick about some of the ingredients. Like somebody has a question about olive oil or balsamic vinegar. What's a good recipe or brand to stick with or style that you like?
I like an aged Spanish balsamic. Same thing with olive oil. The Spanish olive oils tend to be the best, but I also like a light one. We don't want anything too heavy, too oily, so a nice flavorful light Spanish olive oil, and then a nice balsamic vinaigrette. What a lot of people buy now, they oil and vinegar on their salads, or they use olive oil on a number of things. So you have your favorite brands, but I tend to lean towards the Spanish just because the flavor has always been great for me. I've had great luck with those.
Great. So one of the other things people are asking about is cooking instructions too. Like if you were to cook those chops, that pork loin on a grill,
yes.
How long do you cook them in general? Do you have a basic timeline?
Depends on the thickness, obviously. This one is about 3 inches. This one's about 2.5. For something like this, I would grill it for 4 or 5 minutes on each side, turning it once on each side. So I throw it on the grill with salt and pepper, a little olive oil, let it sear for 2 minutes, turn it once for 2 minutes, flip it, turn it once, and then you're done. So you get those nice diamonds, kind of hash marks that you want on any kind of grilled meat. So the point in letting our meat rest is that we want to save all those juices within the meat and not have them run all over the cutting board. We want to lock in all those flavors, and by resting, the meat actually relaxes a little bit, and those juices and flavors will stay in that bite of meat, is what you want. All right, our jam's getting really close. Now, I'm just going to add a little pinch of salt and pepper since we're using it for a savory dish tonight. If you were to use this in a sweet application, maybe not salt and pepper, but for tonight, just a little bit of salt and pepper at the end to finish it off. And we're getting very close. So this piece that I've had resting, I'm going to go ahead and slice right now. And we're at a perfect medium. And then we're going to, don't forget, we're going to top this with some hot jam, and it's going to continue to cook, okay? And if you're a little weird about pork and you want it cooked really, really well done, pop it in the oven at 350 for a couple minutes, okay? You guys doing well out there? You guys got all your ingredients and everything's going well? So we're going to fan that out. We're going to clean off the plate a little bit because we want it to look nice. Set our arugula up high. And as we finish our jam, what do we have for questions? Anything?
So somebody asked a question about grapeseed oil, Chef. You know, that they use grapeseed oil for, is that a healthy thing that somebody would use grapeseed oil for? What's the reason?
Grapeseed oil is a little healthier and it also doesn't smoke as much. Same thing with canola oil. It has a very high burn rate, which means you can saute in it and it won't smoke up your house or apartment, which is not what you want. A lot of people have smaller kitchens or smaller houses, or even if you have a massive house, you don't want to smoke it out with olive oil. So grapeseed oil, canola, or vegetable oil, I always say to saute it. So we're finishing up our jam here. And see how it's nice and thick? Not too loose. The liquid is thick. The berries are nice and soft. The apples are caramelized. You get the tartness from the Granny Smiths and the sweetness from the blackberries. And we're just going to cover that. I have some microgreens here. You guys can use anything you have as far as garnish. If you have parsley or microgreens or chives, anything fun like that to make it look kind of fun. Not necessary unless you're maybe having a dinner party and you want to impress your friends. But there's 2 simple dishes that you guys can make at home and have made at home, and now you can do for a dinner party and be the hit. What do you think? You guys all did well?
So, Chef, you said something really cool there about, simple things that could impress, even your friends who know you so well. Even from the style of plate you choose, what are a few things, or what's one of your favorite tips to show up the Joneses or the Smiths?
Well, you just want to do one bright and bold flavors. Same with your plates. I used a fun yellow plate here, white here because I knew we'd have the green and red and the white from the pork. So it's basically like you're framing a picture, right? This is the art. This is the frame. You want to make sure that you have some nice colors. If you want to do this in a big bowl, colorful floral bowl, and let your friends serve themselves with chips and whatnot, then you can. But it's just like, it's a work of art. So you want to plate it on something fun, not too, basic white plate works fine, but if you got something fun, use it. You might as well pull it out of the cupboard and use it. You got that old china you want to use, throw some Salmon Poké and some seared pork on there with blackberry jam.
And so what wine are you drinking now with the pork?
So I have a Pinot Noir, which I've also cooked with. It's got the perfect amount of fruitiness and acidity that goes with the jam. So that's what I chose. But any kind of big red that you want to use to cook with for the jam, my rule of thumb is don't cook with it unless you would drink it. So, I mean, a lot of people in restaurants use the box wine and try to use up the old wine, but when you're cooking at home, cook with something that you would drink, because you're going to taste the flavors in that jam. You're going to taste it in your glass. You don't want to cut any corners with it. So, any last questions at home? Feel free, type in the chat box. You guys have any financial questions, reach out to Opus Advice First. Nina and the crew there, like I said, 3 locations across the country, coast to coast, Oxford, Westchester, Palo Alto. They'll help you plan for your future, whether it's retirement, wedding, bigger life events, anything like that. Kind of just like we did here. Put it all together, you get great dishes, put it all together, you get a great financial plan. So I just want to thank Opus, Advice First for hosting this cooking session. And when this opens up, we're going to do some fun events in person. You guys can ask any questions you want. And I look forward to seeing you all in person. Thank you very much.